Far Cry villains have been a staple of the long-running series, but certain villains showcase the darker side of human nature better than others. Each villain highlights a particular psychotic attribute and challenges the protagonist in various ways. While it's purely fictional, the characters and narratives portray similar real-world circumstances and situations. The most recent villain in Far Cry 6, Anton Castillo, can even be categorized as an allegorical figure. Villains have always been a part of the Far Cry franchise. Dr. Krieger, the brilliant but mad scientist, was the first. He created a serum that mutated humans and gave them superpowers. Although Krieger isn't Far Cry's most prominent villain, he was the start of what the series would become. In its fledgling stages, however, Far Cry struggled to find the series' identity, which was showcased in the lackluster second installment. The Jackal, as he was called, was the villain, but he was also the protagonist from the first game. Initially, many took it as a Far Cry 2 fan theory, but Ubisoft later confirmed the suspicions that Jack Carver was indeed Far Cry 2's villain. The series' early mistakes helped it innovate, and the villains began to improve from Far Cry 3 onwards. Out of the many villains featured in Far Cry so far, the top 5 are the Mickey and Lou duo, Anton Castillo, Pagan Min, Vaas Montenegro, and Joseph C. There are debates regarding which of these characters are better throughout the community. Ultimately, it comes down to players' preferences and how each game impacted them personally. 5. Mickey Lou are the best Far Cry duo. Mickey and Lou are twin sisters that act as the antagonist villains in the 2019 Far Cry 5 sequel, Far Cry New Dawn. To understand the narrative of New Dawn, playing through Far Cry 5's ending, which doesn't suck, is crucial, as the events follow the aftermath of the apocalypse. Mickey and Lou are the leaders of a prominent gang that filled the power vacuum in Hope County. They ravage and pillage local survivors' homesteads. Mickey, who wears the blue appeal, is the speaker, while Lou, wearing a red outfit, uses physical force to intimidate and subjugate her victims. Together the two cause a ton of damage and incite fear in anyone who dares stand up to their gang. Throughout New Dawn, it becomes apparent that the sisters are motivated by the past, mainly influenced by their father's philosophy and upbringing. However, the sisters' terror only lasts for a time, but it was brutal while they were powerful. 4. Far Cry 6 represented Anton Castillo as the archetypical dictator. Anton Castillo is the main villain in the most recent installment, Far Cry 6, but what makes this game different from the others in the series is that the antagonist is a political leader of a nation, Yara. In that case, Anton can be compared to the many authoritarian dictators of the 20th century. But more specifically, Yara is most directly compared to the island country of Cuba in the 1950s. Far Cry 6's Castillo rules over the nation with an iron fist, using the media to promote a positive image of himself while simultaneously controlling every aspect of the Yaran's life. Anton is the perfect example of the archetypical dictator. He's intelligent and reserved, but underneath that is an ideology that seeks to control, dominate, and prey upon those he controls. And, like other authoritarian leaders, he has an apprentice, his son, to whom he wishes to pass the baton after his rule. 3. Pagan Min is Far Cry's most ruthless villain. While the story of Far Cry 4 lacked variety, especially after following Far Cry 3's success, its villain, Pagan Min, was a reminder that the series focused on creating well-developed antagonists. Aside from how much Far Cry's Pagan Min loves food, he's deadly ruthless and borders the line of sadism, even against his militants. What Pagan says goes, and if his orders aren't followed precisely as he gives them, he kills without mercy in a fashion of pure evil. However, the ironic situation in Far Cry 4 is that Pagan Min has a soft spot for the protagonist, Ajay Ghale. As a result, it gives the players a glimpse into the ruthless nature of Pagan because Ajay sees all the horrific atrocities committed, yet he goes unscathed. This dynamic relationship between the two makes Pagan Min one of the most interesting villains in the Far Cry franchise. 2. Boss raised the bar for all Far Cry villains. Boss Montenegro is now known far and wide, especially within the Far Cry community. Many believe he's the best villain created for a video game, and that's saying something. Far Cry 3 took a major turn, and Boss was a pivotal element. Instead of the typical stop the bad guy formula, Ubisoft ventured more into the psychological questions about why a person becomes a villain and why they choose to partake in villainous acts were more of the focus. Boss fulfilled that role beautifully with his insanity monologues. Although he seemingly dies in the game, the most recent DLC might show how Boss survived in Far Cry 3. If Boss did survive, it raises deeper questions about his role in the game. Maybe he was there to help the protagonist to survive all along, or maybe Jason turned into Vaas by the end, symbolically. 1. Joseph Seed as Far Cry's ultimate villain. Joseph Seed, commonly known as the Father in Far Cry 5's Hope County, is the franchise's best overall villain. Certain aspects of other villains may be better than Joseph Seed, but what makes him the best is his dynamic characterization and ability to pull players into the narrative. Seed is a cult leader in the rural parts of the northwestern United States. He and his family draw people in by preying on their downfalls. Throughout various encounters with Far Cry 5's inspired cult, it's easy to fall into the trap of sympathizing with the people who the Father has tricked, but that's part of the game. The player must continually ask themselves what reality truly is and come to an understanding of life's imperfections. Even Jacob Seed breaks free of the mind game in the sequel, New Dawn, which was the first time a villain in Far Cry could finally be seen in a positive light.
My heart returns to